Hey everyone, what's up? How are you? I am back. My name is Rachel and I am the proud founder of Seyopa, Seize Your Passion. And I'm here every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time from the Facebook group live, sharing with you my thoughts for the week, my lessons for the week, my aha moments for the week, and my growth on my journey to seize my passion. And hopefully inspiring you guys to seize your passion, realize your dreams, become your best self, achieve your goals, and all that amazing stuff. So this week, what I've been thinking about and my aha moment has to do with this notion of idealism and sort of reconnecting for myself with my journey and my sort of relationship with idealism. So the basic definition of idealism is, seeing the world and seeing yourself. Sorry, Tamir, I'm doing a live video, honey, so please don't knock and don't interrupt. Sorry, guys, my daughter's knocking on the door. Okay, so the basic notion of, the basic definition of idealism is seeing yourself and seeing the world as it can be versus how it exists today, right? It's seeing yourself as you can be, your full potential versus how you are today, right? And what I realized this week in thinking about this notion of idealism and the notion of idealize in order to realize is that if you do want to realize your dreams, become your best self, achieve your goals, attain personal growth, self-improvement, and development in your life, you have to have at the core of your beliefs, it has to be grounded, and I use that word very intentionally, right? Grounded is very realistic and based in reality, but your belief system has to be grounded in idealism, right? And here's why. So Viktor Frankl, who is a brilliant mind, and I was actually only introduced to him, I never had heard of him until very recently. He was a legendary psychiatrist and a Holocaust survivor. And I caught this video, it's on TED Talks, of Why Believe in Others. You can watch it there. It's in black and white, it's from 1972. He has a very heavy German accent. But he tells this story of how he recently started taking flight lessons, right? And at this point, he's an older man with gray hair, and he jokes about that, which that in of itself is cool that he started taking flight lessons at that age in life. I think that's awesome, but that's a side note. So he tells this story how when he was in flight school, his flight instructor basically told him about this strategy in flying called crabbing, right? Where he said, if you're aiming to land for a certain target, right, for the airfield, and there's a crosswind, if you aim for that target directly, the crosswind is going to cause you to drift downward and you won't hit that target. You'll hit way below that target, right? So they do something called crabbing, which is essentially aiming north of your target so that you actually then hit the actual target. And then he went on to compare this to how we view men and women, right? How we view ourselves and how we view people in the world, right? And he basically summarized it as you have to have some sort of idealism grounded in your belief system in order to actually realize in reality and have true realism. And I'll explain, right? He said, if you take man as he is today and you see him realistically as he is today, if you see yourself as you are today, then you'll get worse. You won't hit your target. You won't realize your full potential and become your best self, right? The realities of life, the crosswinds of life will cause you to drift below that target, right? But if you view yourself and you view man and woman as they can be, right? An idealistic view of all that they can be, right? Their full potential. And you strive and you aim for that. You aim north of that target, right? You think and view of yourself and all that you can do and everyone around you as realizing their full potential. Then you will in reality hit that target and you will empower yourself and empower that man or woman to become all that they can be in reality in the real world. And I think that's just so profound and such a great way to sort of look at idealism as a very realistic way, and you could call it realistic idealism or idealistic realism. It doesn't matter. The point is that you have to have a grounded belief in idealism in order to realize in your real world, in the real world, your dreams and your full potential and truly seize your passion, right? And this very much brought me back to my 20s when I was in film school. And I remember having this moment that was just as profound, but instead of it being inspiring and empowering and encouraging, it was quite shattering and disheartening at the time, you know? I remember very distinctly having this sort of, oh my God moment of, wow, the ideas of things and they're in their ideal state, right, are never, it's never going to be as good in reality as the idea itself, as the ideal version of that idea. And so my sort of natural conclusion, which is why it was disheartening at the time, was why even bother, right? Why strive for that ideal idea if it's never going to be as good in reality? But that was such a misconception, and it came full circle around 20 years later today when I was thinking about this notion of idealism, and when I listened to that video by Viktor Frankl about how being grounded in idealism makes you a realist and allows you to see yourself as all that you can be in order so that you will hit that target. Essentially aiming north of the target, aiming high above what you know, at the best that you can see yourself in order to realistically empower you to become and make you capable of becoming all that you can be, right? And I think part of the reason that was sort of, and it's a very subtle difference, right, of how you view idealism. And I think the reason it was so disheartening for me, and I thought, and my conclusion at the time was like, why even bother if the reality is never going to be as good as the ideal? And the idea was, you know, I think there was a little bit of perfectionism that came into play, which is very different from idealism, you know, and I didn't fully understand that view of idealism, right? Where if you don't at least strive for that ideal and that seeing yourself and all your dreams and the world becoming all that it can be, then you're going to not only miss the target, but you're going to probably move further away from it and drift lower and not become better, but in fact become worse, right? I mean, this is what he said, Viktor Frankl, and he was quoting, I think, a famous philosopher, I think Goethe, who actually said it first, right? If you take man as he is realistically, then he will become worse, right? If he doesn't have that target and that aim of reaching high above himself and viewing himself as achieving all that he can achieve and being and becoming all that he can become, then he will not hit that realistic target. He will in fact drift further away from it and lower than it. But if you strive for that ideal, if you reach for the stars, right? If you believe that you can become your best self and realize your dreams and strive for that idealistic view of all that can be and all that you can become, then in fact you will hit that realistic target and you will become capable of becoming that in reality. And that to me was just so profound this week. And again, it just brought me back to that huge moment in my life in my 20s where I didn't have that perception of idealism. I kind of saw it as which a lot of us do, right? But think about it. When you're young, when you're a child, and even in your young adulthood, right? As I was in my 20s, we kind of naturally and innately have this belief system of idealism, right? We naturally and innately believe that we can do anything we want to do, and we could become anyone we want to become, and we could achieve anything we want to achieve, and we could conquer the world, right? And then what happens? Reality sets in, and real life sets in, and the crosswinds set in and cause us to drift further away from that. And instead of still striving for that ideal and still reaching for and viewing ourselves as becoming all that we can become, we take it out of our focus and it's not even a target anymore. And so then what happens? We end up drifting further and further away from the target and further away from that realistic view of what we can become. And we end up, you know, certainly not growing, and at best case scenario, you know, stagnating And usually it's not even that, it's we become worse, right? We pick up bad habits, we become cynical. If we're not striving for that ideal full potential that we can realize, we'll never hit that target. We'll move farther away from it. But if you continue to strive for that idealistic target and you aim for north of that target, then you empower yourself to actually become, in the real world, realistically, that ideal. And again, not a perfectionism view of that ideal, but a realistic view of that ideal goal. And that's what we teach our kids too, right? That's why we teach our kids. You know, what do we tell our kids? We tell them, you can do anything you want to do. You can become anything you want to become, because that is our innate, inherent belief system. But, you know, often what happens is that the realities of life and the crosswinds of life, we forget to continue to strive for that ideal for ourselves, right? We teach our kids that, but then we don't teach ourselves that. We don't remind ourselves of that. So that was really an invaluable lesson for me this week, and a huge aha moment is, you know, essentially, you know, aim north of your target, view the world and yourself as all that you can become and your full potential, and becoming your best self so that you can in reality actually empower yourself and become capable of achieving that realistically. And if you think about all the great achievements and all the great leaders and heroes throughout history, and pick your hero, you know, those are the people that were idealists. They saw the world as it could be. They saw themselves as they could be. They saw their ideas and their ideal versions that people oftentimes said, you're crazy, and that's not realistic, and that's never going to happen. Those are the real game changers. Those are the real difference makers. Those are the ones that we look back on history and we say, wow, what an amazing hero, right? And again, pick your hero. I promise you, any one of your heroes that really made a difference and really made a change and thought outside of the box, and he was not a practical realist without any idealism. They always aimed north of their target and then made that the reality. They were idealists at the end of the day. And really what I realized this week is that is the core and the heart and the soul of what personal growth and personal development and self-improvement is all about. If you believe in and want to realize your dreams, achieve your goals, become your best and true, most fully realized potential self, then you have to be grounded in reality, but with an idealism, right? To make that ideal a reality. Again, aim north of the target and you'll hit the target. If you see things as they are, if you see yourself as you are today, and you're not striving for that ideal and you're not aiming north of that target, then you will drift farther away from that target and you will not hit it, and it will not be reality. So that was my aha moment of the week, my lesson of the week. Hey, Daph. Hey, Natalie. I'm glad this seems to be working. Have an amazing weekend, guys, or week, depending on when you're watching this. Seize your passion, strive for that ideal version of whatever it is you want to achieve, whether it's growing yourself or an idea or a dream you have, because in order to realize it in reality, you got to be, you know, grounded in that belief system that's based on idealism and striving for north of the target to reach the target. That's it. Have a great weekend. Rock it. Thank you. Bye, guys. See you later.